Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. It means we're brought to you by Sagrera Farms, premium Angus beef. Got Taylor Sharp and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Fired up, you're with us here, working towards the weekend on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Michael Cauble in 15 minutes. Big special on WBRZ, highlighting the past, that great news station over there. We'll also talk some LSU football with them in 15 minutes. Chris Marler going to be with us in 30 minutes. He, of course, our SEC writer for LouisianaSports.net. But I want to talk South Carolina with Marler today, so we'll do that at 1:30. The Saints are practicing with the Rams right this second. Started at 1 o'clock Central Time, 11 o'clock out west. So talk a little Saints in the second hour, specifically about Isaiah Foskey and some of the guys that they've got working out that could take his spot. We'll do that in the second hour. No live Saints coverage today because everybody's tied up with practice while we're on the air, so that's just part of the deal. I also want to start dipping my toe into some of these SEC non-conference matchups in September. Get a little bit of a brief overview of those as the season starts to creep closer. We get a look at LSU on the practice field again tomorrow. Again, we did not have access yesterday, no access today, so we'll see them in person tomorrow morning. Looking forward to that. But let's get things started the way we do every day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
I went ahead and fired up 3 bold predictions for LSU football in 2025. It's live on LouisianaSports.net right now. And in so doing, I kind of kick-started what's going to be a theme on the site here over the next couple of days. I've actually kicked this down to the entire ESPN staff for their thoughts in a station survey that's going to come up on the site probably this weekend at some point. Just want to get some takes, want to get some thoughts. Now, we know more about this LSU team today than we did on August 1st. It's been 2 weeks, and I would just say that, like, you've got a coaching staff here in Baton Rouge that is giving the local media phenomenal access, and we have been able to watch. I mean, I would guess I've watched 9 hours of LSU camp. I mean, I think that's probably fair to say. That's unprecedented in the Southeastern Conference. Like, I just don't think of it. I know a lot of people that cover teams in the Southeast. I don't know about folks getting 3 and 4 hours a week to dive in to practice and to see live 11-on-11s and scrimmage type reps and that type of deal. And we've gotten that. So I feel like we've got as good a handle on this team as we've really had in the last few years, really as far as any team that I've covered at LSU, which goes back to 2010, really. So I wanted to toss out 3 bold predictions. I use air quotes with bold. You can determine just how bold those predictions are. But I put them up on LouisianaSports.net, and I'll get into them right here. The first one is I'm looking at LSU's home schedule. And it's not like last year where you had a big non-conference game like UCLA at home. You've got Louisiana Tech. You've got Southeastern. You've got Western Kentucky. None of those are going to move the needle. LSU is going to be fine in those 3 games. But your home games in the league are interesting. Arkansas comes here. That's going to be, in my estimation, one of the worst teams in the league. I think LSU is going to win that game comfortably in Tiger Stadium. The other 3 home games are tricky. Florida's week 3. They're going to be 2-0. They finished down the stretch really strong last year. They've got a quarterback everybody thinks is going to be very good if he's healthy. Tough game. South Carolina and Texas A&M come here in October. That's going to be a tough set of circumstances. South Carolina has got a really good quarterback, and they've got one of the best pass rushers in college football, and they've got a lot of confidence. And we're going to talk to Chris Marler in 25 minutes about him, but that's a team that thinks they're pretty good. And then you've got a Texas A&M team that returns a quarterback that torched you last year, and 4 offensive linemen, and 2 really talented running backs, and all of the secondary. And it's year 2 under a really good coach, and I think that's a tough matchup. But my bold prediction is LSU goes undefeated at home. And here's why I think that's a bold projection. Because oftentimes LSU drops a home game. Certainly lost a home game last year to Alabama. Tennessee came in here in Brian Kelly's first year and just housed LSU. But you have won all your home games at times. You won all your home games in 2023 with Jaden Daniels. You won all your home games in 2019, obviously, when you went unbeaten. But I remember last year at this time, thinking about LSU, and I'm going, okay, Jaden Daniels is gone, won the Heisman, second pick in the draft. Okay, Brian Thomas is gone. Malik Neighbors is gone. Like, you've lost your firepower offensively. And you were returning the worst defense you have ever had, so you fired the entire staff and brought in a new one. Like, that's a lot of uncertainty. And I remember looking at the schedule going, okay, Ole Miss comes here, and they're supposed to be really good. And Bama comes here, and they're supposed to be really good. And Oklahoma comes here, and they're supposed to be good. They got 5-star Jackson Arnold at quarterback, and Brent Venables' defense finally going to be intact, and first year in the SEC, and like they'll be good, and like that'll be a big game. Like that, I know LSU's got their questions, but they'll win some games at home. They're not going to lose all 3 of those games at home, and that might sound ridiculous to you today, and maybe it sounded ridiculous to you then. But I had reasons to suggest why those would be very difficult games for LSU to win. Everybody was toasting Ole Miss at this point last year. Everybody. And Bama's Bama. You know how that game went. And then, Oklahoma, that's not a gimme. We didn't know they were going to fall flat on their face. So I trusted the stadium then, even with a lot of questions with the team. And with less questions on this team, I trust that stadium again. And I think LSU is going to win all of those games. It would not be unreasonable for me to pick LSU to beat South Carolina. It would not be unreasonable for me to pick LSU to beat A&M. It would not be unreasonable for me to pick LSU to beat Florida. I think winning all 3 of those games is a rather bold statement. And if you're one of these LSU fans who in the middle of August is going, this is the best team in the country, we're going undefeated, what are you even talking about? Well, I'm not here to back you off that ledge, but I'm just saying that I have some doubts about this team, and I don't doubt that stadium. And I think they're going to win all of their home games this season. So that's bold prediction number 1. Number 2, you have heard me preach this now for 3 weeks, and I'm not going to stop anytime soon. I think Chris Hilton's the best wide receiver on this team. I think he's going to be the most productive wide receiver on this team. I think he's going over 1,000 yards. LSU did not have a 1,000-yard receiver last year, and that's with the quarterback that threw for 4,000 yards. You did not have a 1,000-yard receiver. I think Chris Hilton goes over 1,000 this year. Here's why. The fastest way to get to 1,000 is chunk plays, right? 50, 60-yard touchdown catches. He's going to do that. We know that. He's done that in every game he's been healthy in just about for his entire career. He's never been healthy. But what you haven't seen, what you have not seen the LSU fan who has not been at practice, is how good he is at the other stuff. He is a good route runner. He does have good hands. They're going to throw him now screens. They're going to get him the ball in the middle of the field. They're going to get him the ball in the short game. And he's going to be able to make plays doing that as well. I think Chris Hilton is primed for a monster year, and I think he's going over 1,000 yards this year. That is my bold prediction. Now, this is a receiving core that's got Aaron Anderson and Nick Anderson and Barry Brown and Kyle Parker, and you can go down the list, Xavier Thomas, Jelani Watkins, however far you want to go. They got a lot of dudes, and they're going to spread the ball around. I don't think Chris Hilton and Aaron Anderson are going to come off the field a ton, and I think Chris Hilton goes over 1,000 yards. That's bold prediction number 2. Number 3, this is a lofty number. Lofty number. I think LSU goes over 45 sacks this year. For reference, last year you had 34. Braden Swinson had a career year. You got some help from Greg Penn and Whit Weeks at the linebacker spot. Savion Jones was a 3rd-round pick. Not a big sack guy, but was one of your better edge rushers. You used some blitzes, and Blake Baker's defense is aggressive by nature, and you got home for some sacks. And 34 sacks was 7th in the SEC, right in the middle of the SEC. I think LSU does significantly better than that. I think Patrick Payton adds a lot in the pass rush game. I think Jack Pyburn, after only having 1 sack in his whole career at Florida, is going to be an improved pass rusher this year. I think Jamari Butler and Gabe Relaford are potential dudes off the edge. Absolutely, a healthy Harold Perkins makes you a better pass rush team. They're going to still send Whit Week on pressures. He's very good at rushing the passer. Blake Baker wants to dial up pressure. And to put all that together, you also have a defensive coordinator that wants to go create pressure, and I think they're going to be ahead in a lot of games. And when you've got those two things, sacks come. LSU was awesome rushing the passer early in the season last year. 5 sacks at South Carolina, 6 sacks against Ole Miss. And that kind of tapered off late in the season. That's got to be a big part of what they do. Bernard Gooden's a guy I haven't mentioned yet. He can create some rush from the inside. Dominic McKinley had 2 sacks against Oklahoma last year. He can create pressure from the inside. I think that these guys are going to be a terrorizing group on offensive lines, especially if LSU can get a lead. So to me, the 45 sacks would have been 3rd in the SEC last year. Ole Miss topped 50. Texas had a good pass rush. I think LSU goes over 45 sacks this year and is a really, really good pass rushing team that's in the top 2 or 3 in the SEC. So my bold predictions, I got LSU going unbeaten at home. That means Florida, South Carolina, Texas A&M, and Arkansas, plus Louisiana Tech, Western Kentucky, Southeastern. I've got Chris Hilton over 1,000 yards, and I've got LSU 45 sacks. Taylor, you're listening. Which of those is the boldest prediction on my part?
The boldest? I agree with you on 2 out of 3. Boldest for me is going to be the Chris Hilton 1,000 yards. Like, I definitely understand why you got there. I just think there's a lot of mouths to feed on the offense.
Lots of mouths to feed. How do we feel about the pass rush?
I'm with you. I think the pass rush is going to be great. I mean, I think out of all the positions in the portal, you probably did the best job at defensive end. I mean, you brought in 3 studs to pair with Gabriel Relaford, who a lot of people already like. I mean, I think there's versatility there.
And what's the toughest home game that LSU will have to navigate to win all of their home games?
The toughest home game, I'm going to say South Carolina. That's the one I'll go with. I think they're just a little bit better top to bottom than Florida. Now, Florida will be tough because it's the first big-time home game early in the season, but I'm going South Carolina.
It's South Carolina is fascinating to me because it's not a program that I'm ready to just give the benefit of the doubt of, okay, you lost 5 guys off the front 7, you'll just restock the shelves. Okay, you did a really good job of playing late down the stretch. You beat Clemson, beat the brakes off A&M. Like, oh, you'll just do that again. Like, I don't trust them to that level yet, but they got talent. Lagway's, Sellers is a tough dude to deal with, and anytime you've got an edge rusher as quality as they do, it changes the way you call offense. So we're going to talk to Chris Marler about South Carolina coming up in 15 minutes. I'm fascinated to hear what he has to say about the Gamecocks this year. First, before we get to Michael Cauble, let me tell you about Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. By now, you know about Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. I love talking to Sean. He's so passionate about what they do. Some of the finest beef in the country is right here just north of Baton Rouge. And I've told you my personal story. Sean's came by and dropped off a bunch of meat to my house, and I've had the opportunity over the course of the last few weeks to cook it. My wife loves burgers. She doesn't love my homemade burgers. I go to the local joint, grab some ground beef, season it up, put it on the grill. Not her favorite. Sean dropped off some ground beef, cooked burgers. She said, clearly the best burgers I had ever made at home. Clearly. That's her words right from the horse's mouth. Me, I wanted to cook up a ribeye. He got a bone-in ribeye he gave to me. Incredible marbling on this steak. Just seasoned it, salt and pepper, threw it on the grill. Phenomenal. It was absolutely a high-end restaurant quality steak at home. If you love great premium Angus beef, whether that's steaks, whether that's burgers, you want to do flank steak, you want to do chuck roast, Sean's got some of the finest beef in the country. And all you got to do is give him a call and go up to the farm and check it out. You'll see and know exactly what it is that you're buying. You don't have to ask questions. Were there steroids used? Was there antibiotics used improperly? That's never going to be even a thought at Sagrera Farms. It's convenient. It's prime right here in Baton Rouge. So call Sean. I give you his phone number each and every week on the show. You just call the guy that has the farm. Go up there and handle your beef for the rest of the summer into the fall. Fill that freezer up. Call Sean 225-719-1723. Again, 719-1723. It's Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Bring you our Thursday shows each and every week. When we come back, Michael Cauble talking LSU camp next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
You gotta believe in a dream. Believe. You gotta believe in a dream. Believe. You gotta believe. My whole team on wild.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $22,500 off MSRP on the brand new 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie with $22,500 off MSRP with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty that comes with all new Bayou Automotive vehicles. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
River Parish Contractors has immediate openings for structural steel shop fabricators. Call or text Big Jake today at 318-547-1000 or go to rpcontractors.com and click on employment. River Parish Contractors. Let's get building.
At Luba Workers' Comp, our journey began over 30 years ago with a simple belief: our clients come first.
At Luba, our business has always been focused on people, not policies.
Through every success and challenge, we've continued to grow because we've stayed true to our values, committed to providing you with genuine dependability.
Because your well-being is more than a priority. It's our purpose.
Family-owned and community-driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Again, no media access today for LSU fall camp. We will be in there tomorrow to watch the Tigers practice. Michael Cauble, WBRZ sports director, likely will be in that number. I certainly will. He joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Mr. Cauble, how are you?
Doing great, Hunt. Thanks for having me. How you doing?
It's my pleasure. Doing well. I was talking about this at the top of the show. You've been here a lot longer than I have covering LSU football. Like, the access we're getting to fall camp, I think is pretty impressive. I mean, I counted. I've probably seen like 9 or 10 hours of practice. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that after being in the market for 3 decades or so?
Yeah, no, it's certainly welcomed. Unfortunately for the TV guys, it's not quality access. But just as far as general access, it's awesome. I mean, you certainly get a feel for what the program is actually like, and I can't overstate how important that is, really, because I think a lot of years in the past you get a limited snapshot and you're just reporting what you feel, whereas now you can really report what you're seeing, and it kind of evens the playing ground for everybody, the fans that don't get into practice and the media that do. And you know, I can think of years past where we've really probably overstated how, you know, good a certain aspect of a team might be, and you get to the regular season and it looks terrible. So especially like Ed in those post-championship years, I think, you know, had we had better access, we probably would have seen what was coming a little bit, you know, sooner, and it wouldn't have been such a shock to the system once it actually got out there on the field. So it helps in the long run. It's great to see that they're willing to do it. I just wish they would let us shoot video a little bit more, or from a different location, because from a TV perspective, shooting on the catwalk is just not great. But I mean, I understand it. I think there's things that they could do to help us. Like the Saints, they let us in early for the stretch period. You know, we're trying to get video of guys that we're going to talk about, and you know, if they're stretching, we can still show video of them stretching. So there's some things that can be tweaked, but overall, it's certainly a welcome sight.
You mentioned kind of seeing what things look like with your own eyes. The talk has really been about the defensive line and the offensive line. What has your kind of thought been on those two units thus far?
Yeah, for sure. I think you know, I think that's where the majority of the focus goes, and it's just a question of how good is one or how bad is the other, when the reality is they're probably, you know, not as good as we think and not as bad as we think, you know, respectively. So I think, and interestingly enough, some of the things that you talked about in your last segment were the sacks, and you really didn't mention how improved the secondary is and how much that could go towards your sack total. I think that's one of the things that we're seeing a lot of, is just what that improved secondary does and how much it allows maybe that pass rush to get home when, you know, it might not have in the past because the ball was away. So I think, you know, that is something that has stood out to me, the improvement. We knew what the linebacker core was, but the additions in the secondary, the additions to the defensive front, and maybe some of the scheme that they're doing along that has been impressive. I think the offensive line has gotten a little bit better. The last practice we were at, I was watching Josh, and, you know, he was holding his own a little bit more. That was probably my biggest concern there at guard. But I think they're getting better. And again, you know, Jay Johnson loves to see it. You're allowed to improve, right, as a player. And I think that's something that you'll see with this LSU football team. It may take a minute, and I don't expect them to have a success in Clemson, but that doesn't necessarily derail the season. And I think LSU fans probably need to keep that in mind. You can stumble out of the gate and still get to where you want to go in this new college football playoff era.
You've talked to the players. You mentioned the secondary. Ashton Stamps was by earlier this week. Do you sense anything different about this team when you talk to them?
Well, Hunt, I'm sure you have heard this as well. The interesting thing to me is they added all these new pieces, but the players continue to talk about the camaraderie and the closeness that this group has. It seems counterintuitive, right? So I was curious, like, what is this? What goes into this? We talked to Bernard Berrien about it. And he said it's simply just really hanging out with each other, finding things that you have in common and sharing those. Like Bernard talked about, you know, he has a dog. Somebody on the defensive line has a dog, so they kind of bond over, you know, having pets, I guess, and maybe big dogs. We didn't get into it too much. There's a talent show coming up tomorrow, you know, that Bernard talked about. So they're doing the usual bowling trips, you know, paintball, water park if you have it kind of thing, you know, that most teams do. But I think there's also a lot more emphasis on the team itself to hang out. And you're seeing it kind of cross-platform. You're seeing the offensive guys hang out with the defensive guys. So it really does, you know, build that bond. And the other thing, the elephant in the room, right, they pushed all their chips in. Like, it's kind of do or die for this team. You got a seasoned quarterback. You hit the portal hard. You got experience. You have talent. You like to think you have coaching. So let's see, you know, see how it all plays out, and I'm sure the players feel that sense of urgency as well.
When you watch the running backs, Caden Durham's clearly number one. He's made some big plays. Have you seen anything else from the other now three guys with Juwan Johnson that are working there?
No, you know, you really haven't. You still feel like Caleb is who Caleb is. Give him a little bit of space and he'll be fine, but he really does need that space. The things that have stood out to me, like you what did you do, your bold predictions or something just a moment ago? Like, to me, my bold predictions are the usage of Juwan and the usage of Xavion. Just the way that they're using them, it's fall camp, but if it translates into games, I think that's where you'll see a lot of maybe the the non-traditional running back roles kind of being used in a different way, and picking up in those situations what would be, a toss or a turnaround handoff. Like I think you're seeing those other players kind of fill in those roles.
I enjoyed your leading off question, I should say, to Trey Green about, well, they don't really stop you. What have you seen from him, and what did you get from his interview earlier this week?
They don't stop him.
Really
man.
don't.
I mean, if I asked you what are the things that stood out to you the most at practice, you would say Trey. You would probably say just the depth at receiver.
Gooden.
And you'd probably say the defensive line. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right. Yeah. So those are. I mean, you and I don't know X's and O's, but we can go to practice and watch that.
Yeah.
Right. And Trey is like in every practice situation. And what stands out to me is the dude is still learning the game. He is so raw, both physically, but also schematically. He's figuring it out. He admitted that he didn't understand what cover 2 was last year. So there's a learning curve that goes with that. And that's understandable. I don't have a problem with that. The problem I had was when the coaches couldn't figure it out last year, and we were in week 4 and they were still trying to figure out their personnel. So yeah, I feel like they got a better handle on that. But as far as Trey goes, it's just awesome to watch him play. And he's a cheat code. That's got to be the guy's nickname, because he can get to it where other guys can't. There was that play down the seam. I don't know if you were standing right by me or not, but there was well covered. Perkins was right there, but there was nothing he could do about it, because Trey can just go out and outreach him by 3 feet. And the ball was perfectly placed. It was a great ball by Nuss. And man, if that is a 3 to 4 time occurrence in a game, that's just great news for LSU.
Yeah, he's just there's not a defensive player that has the skill set to stick with him adequately. It's a huge advantage for LSU, and it was that's, and then to hear him say that he lost 30 pounds playing basketball and had to gain it all back. That's also something I found incredibly fascinating. So
the fact that he can gain 20 pounds in a month.
Yeah. It's just ridiculous stuff there. Tell us about what's coming up on WBRZ tonight. I know y'all are excited about it, and it's a big night for y'all.
Yeah, we're celebrating 70 years as a privately owned company, and that just doesn't happen in television. It just quite simply doesn't happen. Kind of like y'all at Guarantee, right?
Yeah.
There's just so many media conglomerates that try to buy up these entities. And so, you got to celebrate that at some point. I've talked about it. It allows you guys to have an all-local sports lineup. That's and a quality one at that. It allows us to do the same thing here. You watch other people's news, they're running news from New Orleans or Alexandria or Shreveport, wherever those other corporate TV stations are. It's all local for us all the time. And so tonight we're celebrating that. We're celebrating 70 years of Baton Rouge. And Michael Shingleton did a great job. John Patrick did a great job putting this piece together, this special that we're going to run tonight at 7 o'clock. I believe it's an hour long. We were trying to shoot for an hour and a half because there's just that much content. But I mean, it'll take you back through obviously the storms. It takes you back through, the airport child molestation murder, something that we carried live, or some TV moments, some Baton Rouge moments, Exxon blowing up for those of you that are old enough. So I tweeted out this morning, if you're over 30 years old and you lived in Baton Rouge, you're going to want to watch this because you're like, man, that's awesome. I remember that. We bring back a lot of the old faces and names. So if you're over 60 and you're listening to this program right now, you're definitely going to want to watch it because it's totally your wheelhouse. But it's just a cool deal. It may not be for everybody, but I think the people that are from Baton Rouge will get a real kick out of it.
Awesome. 7 o'clock tonight, WBRZ. He's Michael Cauble, sports director over there. We'll see you in the morning, Michael. Thank you, man.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Should be very, very cool. I got a family connection to WBRZ back in the 90s in the newsroom and running things over there. And so should be an incredible piece over there. Michael Shingleton, a good friend of mine as well, that did a lot of hard work putting it together. So y'all check that out over on WBRZ later this evening at 7 o'clock. All right, let's move things over to South Carolina. Chris Marler, Locked On South Carolina, also LouisianaSports.net. Going to talk Gamecocks. They'll come to Baton Rouge in October. What should LSU expect? That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com, America's best warranty. That's what they call it, and for good reason. You're talking about a 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. You're talking about a 5-year, 60,000-mile bumper-to-bumper warranty. That is industry leading. Talking about 24/7 roadside assistance for 5 years, unlimited miles on that. Never want to get stranded, you just want to have roadside assistance, Genesis can make that happen for you, as well as complimentary scheduled maintenance, 3 years, 36,000 miles. So all your oil changes, all your air filters, all your wiper fluid, all those maintenance things that can be a little bit annoying to make sure you check out. They'll do it valet and complimentary for 3 years if you make that purchase. The entire line of vehicles, IHA Top Safety Picks, all of them. So you know you're in one of the safest vehicles on the road. Go by and see them, Airline at Piku. They're across from Women's Hospital. It's a gorgeous facility, phenomenal staff. You feel like a guest, not a customer, and you'll drive away in a phenomenal vehicle. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can find them online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
These ice cubes could have been a thankless bed for an all-you-can-eat salad bar. But instead, they cradle and cool the crisp, refreshing Dos Equis. Nicely done, ice cubes.
Man, age is just a number. Don't let it dictate how you feel. Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness has anti-aging services that can help you look and feel your best. Visit yourgoodwood.com and discover a renewed sense of vitality.
We typically think of stress as being bad for us. At Our Lady of the Lake and LSU, we are researching how certain types of stress, such as exercise, can be good for our immune health. By studying people under extreme stress, such as athletes, astronauts, service members, and first responders, we're learning how to improve the immune health of everyone. That's the power of research. That's the impact of champions. Together, we roar.
At Luba Workers Comp, our journey began over 30 years ago with a simple belief. Our clients come first.
At Luba, our business has always been focused on people, not policies.
Through every success and challenge, we've continued to grow because we've stayed true to our values, committed to providing you with genuine dependability.
Because your well-being is more than a priority. It's our purpose.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday shows brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef, some of the best beef you can find in the country, and it's just outside of Baton Rouge in Ethel. Sagrera Farms brings you our Thursday shows each and every week. Chris Marler, who wears a lot of hats, at Vern Funquist on Twitter, LouisianaSports.net, social media director here at the station. Also, Locked On Gamecocks. Give us a little bit of time talking South Carolina. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm quite well. I want to know this first before we get into X's and O's and personnel. I don't have a read on the South Carolina fan base at all. Like, I know their history stinks. Do they feel like they need to be better than last year? Is the playoff absolutely an expectation? Are they just happy to be in the conversation? Like, what's going on over there?
So it feels like they're happy to be in the conversation. It also feels like there's this constant chip on their shoulder, and like I don't want to say like little, like a Napoleon like syndrome type thing, but it's like it is very much a constant chip on your shoulder. And I didn't even realize this until it happened last week. But they're ranked 13th in the coaches poll. And listen, family lives in Columbia, South Carolina. Love Columbia, South Carolina, all that. Even though I just moved from there, but I will tell you, them being ranked 13th in the coaches poll, that's the first time they have been ranked in any preseason poll in the last 10 years. And it's also the highest they've been ranked at any point of the season in the last 10 years. So it's not been great. It's just not been great.
So I look at this team last year. Like, did anybody see that coming? Because they were 3-3 at one point.
Yeah, so the 6-0 thing, I thought they were. I thought the Oklahoma game, the wrong team was favored, and you started seeing them take steps in the right direction. They kind of blitzkrieg Oklahoma in that game, and then things took off from there. Like, all the pieces were in place, but I will say that finishing out the season, winning 6 straight, going into fake Death Valley, winning on the road against Clemson, beating an A&M team. I think it was the week after the game against LSU, where they put like 44-20 on them. Like, you see what they were capable of, but there's also games like when you look at last season, man, it's like, well, they're 9-3, like, and I know that fan base feels very strongly. Well, maybe you don't lose by 2 to Alabama, and you get that 10th win, or maybe calls go differently against LSU and you get that 10th win. Well, they also almost lost to Old Dominion in the first game of the year, so that kind of goes both ways. The one argument I keep making for them, man, is that, like, everyone who thinks that, well, this team wasn't, or they're not going to be very good because they got to replace all these people. They were kind of in the same boat last year in a lot of key areas, and we weren't talking about Kyle Kennard, and we weren't talking about Demetrius Knight Jr. and Nicky Manwari and those guys going into last season either.
So I look at the returning starters, and you look at the front seven where South Carolina just beat people up last year.
Yeah.
And Dylan Stewart is the only guy back. Now, that's a good guy to get back, but, like, do you feel like they can replace some of those pieces, including Kennard, adequately to be similar on defense?
I think you're not going to get the same production. What you could end up getting is maybe Stewart has that kind of that production that Kennard had last year, and then maybe whoever is opposite side of him, whether it be one of the newcomers, whether it be somebody that's been there for a minute, maybe he has the same level of production that Stewart had last year, which was about 8.5 sacks, and he was also very good in havoc plays. I think the thing that they're going to struggle with the most, like, I think they're going to have really good linebackers. They're not going to have veteran experience at the linebacker position. I think they're going to be okay on the interior defensive line in their first team. They're not going to have the depth that they had at that position specifically. So are they going to be able to stop the run, or are people going to be able to gash them? Because the secondary is the best part of the defense and probably the best team on the team. But if people can gash them and run right at them, like you said, I mean, like, replacing 6 or 7, it's not easy to do. And it's so weird because you can make the case, outside of Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs, maybe the one team in the country with the best offensive and defensive player on both sides, you could make the case for South Carolina with Stewart and Sellers. But, man, they got to replace a lot of other people.
They do. As you go to the offense, like Lenore Sellers, do you expect his playing style to be similar this year to last year, or do you think there's development there? Because you turn the highlight tape on, which is not the whole season, but the highlight tape, it's a lot of running around. It's a lot of just being the best athlete out there. Is that going to be the style this year?
Well, first and foremost, Hunt, I mean, he's not going to be wearing glasses, which I personally don't like. I like players that look like me out there, and I'm pretty disappointed he's not going to do that. I think the one thing that is interesting is that offensive line has been so horrifically bad, and they gave up 41 sacks in each of the past 2 years. One of those years was Spencer Rattler at QB, and one was Lenore Sellers. Those are very different quarterbacks, and so that's concerning, right? I think the number from PFF was around 42.5% of his dropbacks he was pressured. I mean, that's nearly half of his times he was dropping back.
Yeah.
He was under duress. So I think you're going to see an offensive line that's better up front. I think he is going to do a better job of not holding onto the ball for too long, because I think he had the highest amount of time between snap to throw of any team in the Power 4. And if you think about that, or any QB in the Power 4, if you think about that number versus what I just told you with him being under pressure nonstop, those things don't add up. So I think you're going to still see him make plays with his legs, but they are going to try to make him be a little bit more comfortable standing in the pocket and throwing the football.
They really need to get off to a good start, right? That's something we talked about in Atlanta when we chatted about the Gamecocks, but I'm looking at the schedule, and once you get to October, at LSU, Oklahoma, Bama, at Ole Miss, at A&M, and then Coastal, and then Clemson, like, that is a nightmare at the end. So you got Virginia Tech to start things, and then you got Vanderbilt and at Missouri before Kentucky. Like, they got to get through September with, at worst, one loss, right?
Without a doubt. I think they will. That Missouri game is tricky because you got to look at it from both sides. It's like Missouri starts out in the season with playing 6 straight home games. I think they're going to be in the college football playoff talk, like, because of how easy their schedule is.
Yep.
I don't know if that means they're going to beat South Carolina, but like South Carolina fans kind of go into this with like, yeah, of course that's a win. They should be 5-0 going into the second half of the season. And you better pray that you are, because like you said, like the back half of that schedule is very, very difficult. You got a lot of road games. I'm not as high on Oklahoma as some people. I don't think going to Ole Miss is the most difficult thing to do, especially with what they have to replace. But Bama at homecoming is a strong and confident move. Out of South Carolina, didn't see that coming. Like, what?
Is there something like, is there like a fair involved in that, or why'd they do that?
I don't. When I saw that, I was like, sick. Okay, yeah, that is. I mean, like, you want to talk about feeling yourself after one good season. No, but I do think that like the Kentucky games at home, and then that Missouri game, I think, because you've lost 5 straight games to Missouri going into last year. I mean, if you remember that game, Hunt, that game was like, I mean, Missouri scored with 1:09 to go to take the lead. Like, that's why I had to come back and use all of Stellar's heroics to win that one. Otherwise, we're talking about a 10-2 Missouri team probably in the playoff.
Yep.
And I think that win, the one of the biggest things from a statistical standpoint and trend that they had to change last year was going into last year in his first 3 seasons, Shane Beamer was 2-10 in SEC road games. Last year, they ended up going 3-1 with that one loss being the 2-point road loss to Alabama. So that has to continue this year.
And I'd forgotten, I watched it live, but I'd forgotten until I watched the documentary on Netflix that Sellers had the guy on the 2-point conversion wide open, and he sailed it over his head. And they have a chance to tie that game. Then they had the onside kick and whatever, but they were certainly right there in that game. Here's a ridiculous. Well, first of all, what's your gut tell you in the 12-game schedule? 8-4.
I just hope that none of my listeners are listening to this. You know, I think that they have to get off to, I think, 5-0 start. The LSU game is tricky because I have them. The guaranteed losses I have on the schedule are at LSU and at A&M. They have been horrible at A&M, but I do think that 8-4 and 9-3 is about where they'll land. I think 9-3 is the ceiling.
If they go 9-3, that's 2 really good years. I realize it's not going to get you in the playoff, but like at South Carolina, I think that's solid work. We'll see if they can get that done. Here's just a ridiculous question: like Shane Beamer in Columbia, 3.5. I set the over/under on years from now. Would you take the over on that?
1,000%. He loves that place so much.
Good.
And I think he's very loyal, and I think he really loves what he's built there. Also, where do you think he's going to go?
No, they fire him. They could pull in Nebraska. They could pull in Nebraska and be like, oh, this Bo Pelini guy that wins 8 games every year, he's done. And then
my optimism was way too high there, I think, because my thought was like, oh, someone's going to try and poach him away like Kentucky. No, I think that's a good point. I think the other part, too, is I remember going into last season, it was, you know, the national media was like, oh, he's on the hot seat, coming off that 5-7 disappointing season. And anybody close to the program was like, no, he is not. They've invested a lot. They just gave another contract, and I think unless something horrifically bad happens, I don't see it happening.
All right, cool. All right, he's Chris Marlowe, LouisianaSports.net, Locked On Gamecocks, social media director here. Lots of things, and we appreciate a little bit of time talking Gamecocks. Thanks, man.
Appreciate it, dude.
Chris Marlowe talking South Carolina. The Netflix documentary I watched. I'll talk about it for a second here. For those that there's no spoilers in this segment whatsoever. So if you haven't watched it and are excited about it but haven't had time, and you're like, oh, I don't want to hear anything, I'm not going to give you any spoilers at all. But Andy Staples, who is very much featured in this documentary, for those that don't know, Netflix did a documentary called Any Given Saturday, and it's about the SEC last year. It goes through the season from last year. LSU's heavily featured in 2 of the episodes, 1 and 4. But he said that you will learn something if you watch it. Now, I realize that because of my job, not because I'm smarter than anyone, my job is to cover the team, okay? I'm in press conferences. I go to practices. I am going over stats. I'm talking about all the games. Like it is literally my job. So I'm more immersed in this than 99% of the people that are watching it. I didn't learn anything, and not anything. I mean, that Shane Beaver goes to breakfast with his family and changes when they have something. When they lose a game, they change restaurants. Like I didn't learn anything about DJ Lagway or Florida. I didn't learn anything about LSU. I didn't learn much about South Carolina. Shane Beaver's heavily featured in it, but I already knew the results of the games, so that and a lot of what they were doing was like gearing it towards these games and like what could happen if you win and what could happen if you lose. And like I already know who won and lost because I watched the season. So it was like, to me, the PGA Tour documentary, the Full Swing they did a few years ago. Like, I don't need to know that Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth are good friends. I don't need to know that Ian Poulter and Bruce Koepka went to live. I already know that. So to me, it didn't. I watched every episode, and I was, it was mindless entertainment for me to watch after my kids went to bed, and I certainly didn't hate it. But I was hopeful that it would give me some behind-the-scenes access I wasn't privy to, and I would learn something about somebody. And I realized they're not going to get on the whiteboard and X and O up Alabama and tell me what happened here. Like, I'm not naive enough to think that's going to be in there, but I was thinking maybe something along the lines of somebody had this injury and we didn't know about it and they treated it like this. And like, it just, I mean, it's wishful thinking, and I'm thinking of hypotheticals, but it just didn't hit for me as something that taught me anything new. Taylor, I don't know if you've watched the whole thing. Did you get anything out of it?
Not a ton, like you said, that we didn't already know. Maybe a little behind the scenes of Kelly, maybe. I mean, a tad, but even
at home with his dad, saying you're a whiskey sour guy.
Even that, like, I think people that don't know Brian Kelly maybe saw a little bit more of a personable side, but like, I think he's been great with the Baton Rouge media here. So like, it's really nothing we didn't already know.
Yeah, it's just not a terribly done deal. And if you are, I think the documentary is best if you are a 14-year-old kid who loves the Seattle Seahawks and you're just immersed in the NFL and you love football and you're like, oh, I don't really watch the SEC. Like, what's this like? That would probably be cool for you. But I'll say this, like, I got Taylor's in it for 8 seconds and I'm in it for 14 seconds and I got like 35 text messages about it. So clearly a lot of people are watching it. It is absolutely a success. You can vouch for that.
Yeah, I mean, I got quite a few texts. Still waiting on my royalties, but other than that.
It was a lot like my cousin who went to Washington Lee University and has never even been to an SEC football game. Her and her kids were watching it, and my good friend over in Houston who went to LSU, but she doesn't care that much about sports. She just comes to one game a year or whatever. She watched it. So, like, people are watching it. I just didn't get a ton out of it, but that's it. Let's come back and close out the hour with some Meet the Freshmen next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. I say redesign, I say remodel, and you start thinking dollar signs, you start thinking knocking out walls, you start thinking big projects, and they can do stuff like that. David and his team are licensed contractors. They can build you a new bathroom, but they also do things that are quote unquote small. When I say small, I just mean things that aren't time invasive, that are not overly expensive, can be done cost effectively, like a tub to shower conversion. If you don't use your tub, we use our tub every day in the Palmer house. We got 2 kiddos. They're in there splashing around. 6:15, that's bath time in the Palmer house. But if you don't ever use yours, it's old and dingy, or it doesn't work properly, or it's got some, whatever the case may be, take it out. Put in a gorgeous glass walk-in shower. Use that space more effectively. Change the aesthetic of your bathroom. Change the functionality of your bathroom. Add some value to your home. You spend a lot of time in the bathroom. Make it look nice. David's got pictures of his fantastic work. They do vanities. They do showers. They do all those types of things in the bathroom, and they can help you with it. 30 years of experience doing it. Go with the folks who have been doing it for 3 decades. It's One Bath and Closets. You can find them online. OneBathAndClosets.com.
When it comes to industrial construction, River Parish Contractors can do it all. Mechanical, structural, custom fabrication, specialized welding, and turnaround services. Strategically located in between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, we have the local team with the experience and commitment to safety to manage the most complex industrial projects. Period. Here's the deal. Partnering with us means your project is delivered on time, on budget, and most important, safely. River Parish Contractors, let's get building.
These are the luckiest ice cubes in the world. They could have been a thankless bed for an all-you-can-eat salad bar. But instead, they've been called upon to cradle and cool a crisp, refreshing Dos Equis. Huh. Looks like the lucky just got luckier. Dos Equis.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
ED, low T, or simply seeking to optimize your health and performance? Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness offers a range of discreet services to address your specific needs. We empower men to reclaim their health and confidence. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
When it comes to choosing energy for your family and your home, make the smart choice with natural gas. You can count on efficient and affordable natural gas to keep you comfortable and reduce your environmental impact to help protect our planet. Together, we're fueling our energy future. Atmos Energy.
We came up with the idea of auctions in August. Gulf Coast Bank does all the work. We display the item, we prominently feature it in social media, on our website, but we do it because it's the right thing to do for the community.
It's not just a game, it's a religion. You've got your team colors, team swag, and now your very own website. LouisianaSports.net. Everything LSU, Saints, and Pelicans. Sports on demand. In-depth coverage by sports writing pros with continuously updated news. And with the LouisianaSports.net newsletter, you get pinged directly with top trending stories. Best of all, now and always, no paywall. It's free. Louisiana.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
All right, finishing up the hour here. We're brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Let's meet the freshmen. We got 2 more to go.
Meet the freshmen. Freshmen, meet the freshmen. They're the newest Tigers on the team.
We'll start with a couple of guys today that have put on some considerable weight since they've gotten to campus. First is Jaden Breaker, a 4-star linebacker from South Gwinnett High School in Snellville, Georgia. You look at the rankings nationally. On 3 had him as the number 10 linebacker in the country, 24/7 number 12 linebacker in the country. Rivals had him as number 5 linebacker in the nation coming out of Georgia. LSU had to fight off some heavy hitters to acquire his services. And you look at his recruiting profile, he's listed at 210 pounds. LSU listed him at 220 pounds in that 6'3" frame. This is a freshman linebacker class that has a lot of talent. You look at Charles Ross and Zach Weeks, certainly, but Jaden Breaker fits in that role. Probably not as athletic as Ross in terms of just straight line speed, not quite as physically imposing as Zach Weeks, who is 6'5", but 6'3", 220 at this point in his college career is impressive. It's the same thing I said about Zach Weeks. It's really the same thing I said about Charles Ross. Like, they've got real ability, but you've got Whit Weeks and West Weeks, and then you got Devon Keys right above them. And then you've now seen Tylen Singleton really make a push in his second year in the program. He's getting some run with the first and second team. So these 5 freshman linebackers are in wait-and-see mode. They might play a little bit of special teams, but they're not going to play a lot on defense. And that's okay. That's the way you kind of like what things to go this day and age with the transfer portal. But Jaden Breaker is a very, very talented young man and a guy that probably competes for playing time next year. Then you look at our second Meet the Freshman of the day, and that is Damian Shanklin. You want to talk about physically imposing. when you go out to practice, if I were to point to Damian Shanklin and tell you who that was, you would probably be surprised because he does not look like a freshman at all. He is 6'5", 260 pounds, working with the edge rushers. They have brought in a lot of edge rushers over the years that have been light. I mean, that have been 215, 220 pounds that you've got to put some weight on to deal with SEC tackles. Damian Shanklin comes to LSU really at a playing weight. We'll see what they end up playing him at, and I don't think that'll be this year with all the talent they brought in at the edge. But Shanklin was the best player in the state of Indiana by one service, number 4 in the Rivals industry rankings, a top 30 player on the edge at his position, and a guy they went into the Midwest to grab. So I think that he's got to wait his turn behind all these transfers, plus Gabe Relaford that LSU brought in. From a size perspective, Damian Shanklin checks every box you could check at the edge spot. So that's Jaden Breaker and Damian Shanklin. We got 2 more freshmen to go. We'll do those tomorrow in our final installment of Meet the Freshmen. If you missed any of the first hour, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. We'll pause for national headlines and Sports Center. Come back with hour 2 of this Thursday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Baton Rouge's home for real rock. It's Eagle 98.1. Foo Fighters. Led Zeppelin. AC/DC. Pearl Jam. And the flagship home for LSU sports. Take us anywhere with the Eagle 98.1 app. Eagle 98.1 is the rock station.
Today, we are shaping tomorrow.
We are researching how extreme stress impacts the immune system, from trauma victims to athletes and even astronauts.
Our work is leading the way in sepsis treatment, saving countless lives.
We're unlocking the mind with music in exciting new ways.
Our Lady of the Lake Health and LSU are improving the health of our state.
That's the impact of champions.
Imagine the impact we'll have on the future. Together, we roar.
Hi, this is Beth Serena. Welcome to my pool. The first time I saw this beautiful pool, it exceeded every expectation that I had. They were able to get everything we wanted in this pool. It is a beautiful pool. We live out here, we eat out here, we watch TV out here. This is like our living room outside. We love this pool and everything about it. When we decided to build our pool, we called a great friend who is one of the best pool builders in the country in North Louisiana, and we said, who would you choose to build a pool in Baton Rouge? And without a hesitation, he told us Russell Pools. He said their history, tradition of great builds, great pools was unmatched. So of course, who did we call? Russell Pools. The advice I would give to anyone looking to build a pool is first call Russell Pools. They'll do an incredible job. It'll be incredibly organized. It'll be time efficient. And you will have your pool in no time.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
At Luba Workers' Comp, our journey began over 30 years ago with a simple belief: our clients come first.
At Luba, our business has always been focused on people, not policies.
Through every success and challenge, we've continued to grow because we've stayed true to our values, committed to providing you with genuine dependability.
Because your well-being is more than a priority. It's our purpose.
I'm Christine Lisi. Chiefs receiver Rashee Rice expected to have his disciplinary hearing with the NFL on September 30th in New York, clearing a path for him to play the first 4 weeks of the season before any potential discipline is handed down for his role in a multi-car crash last offseason in Dallas. Again, Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford not participating during today's joint practice with the Saints because of a back injury. A lack of practice and the fact his back did not respond the way he and the team had hoped for after Saturday's lengthy workout is concerning for ESPN NFL analyst Marcus Spears.
What about after week one? How you gonna feel when somebody hits you, when you've been throwing a lot, when you've had to move and step outside of the pocket? And I know they got medicine, and I know they got stuff that is very, very strong, but you're asking him, like, we can't practice in a controlled environment without getting hit, without having to move around.
Rams do expect Stafford to be ready for week one. Afternoon baseball, Mariners, Orioles in a rain-delayed top 5 with Baltimore up 5-zip. Seattle one back of Houston in the AL West and holds the top AL wildcard spot.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Hour 2, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, working towards the weekend. Hope it's been a good one for you. Thanks for hanging out with us. Got a lot to do in this second hour. The Saints have just waived a quarterback and signed a defensive end. We'll talk about it 15 minutes from right now. I don't think the signing is significant at defensive end, but there could be some wheels in motion that may be significant at defensive end. We'll, again, do that in 15 minutes. I want to spend a little bit of time. We're not going in depth. We're not diving too deep. We're staying surface level, but it's time to start looking at matchups in college football. We spend a lot of time this time of year talking about individual teams, individual players, what teams are going to look like, but it's now time to start looking at matchups. And the SEC has mandated that its teams play one Power 4 conference team out of conference every year. So you got to do it. That's already baked in for Florida with Florida State, or Clemson with South Carolina with Clemson, or Kentucky with Louisville. That's already going to happen, but everybody else has got to kind of step outside, and a lot of that happens in September, and some are really doing so in a big way. Obviously, Texas going to Ohio State in the first game of the season is as big a matchup as you could ask for in the sport of college football, and I'm fascinated by this game. Ohio State had 14 players drafted off last year's team. 14. That's a lot. And they don't have a quarterback. Julian Sayin is battling with Lincoln Kleinholz. The thought is that Sayin will win that job, and it's a cush place to play quarterback. They've usually got a great offensive line. Jeremiah Smith's probably the best player in the entire country. Caleb Downs on that defense should be great, but they're missing a ton off that unit. And Texas is breaking in Arch Manning, and they've got a lot to replace on defense. Now, Colin Simmons comes back, and he's going to be the headliner there. We're very familiar with him from the recruiting days. But that's, I believe, a fairly even on-paper matchup that I would probably favor Ohio State in because of the building they're playing it in. But that's a monster game that I think if you're Texas, a loss makes things a little scary because you know you got to go to Athens, and that's not a lot of fun. And if you lose that game to Ohio State and you already lost it and you know that you've got to go to Athens, that makes the high wire act that you've got to walk really, really tough for the next 3 months. Just is. So I'm fascinated by that one. I'm not as intrigued with Bama, Florida State. I would have been this time last year if you would have told me that was on the schedule, because Florida State was what everybody thought was kind of an emerging program under a coach who you feel differently about today than you did then. When Mike Norvell brings that Jordan Travis group along with that defense full of transfers, and they're awesome, and then they get left out of the playoff, you still feel like that's one of the premier programs in college football. And then they do what they did last year, which is unfathomable. Do you realize this? Let me lay this out last year for Florida State. You know they were bad. You know they were bad. Did you know they were this bad? There are 134 teams in D1 college football. 134. They were 132nd in total offense. There were 2 teams worse than them in total offense. They were 131st in scoring offense. There were 3 teams that scored less frequently than Florida State. And they were 116th in passing offense. Like, that is so hard to just wave your hands and fix. It just is. I don't know what Castellanos is going to have. They've got to be better than they were last year, but that's unthinkable that you could drop to those levels. And so while this looked to me to be a difficult game for Alabama as of last August, now I don't see it that way unless something drastic has changed in Tallahassee, which is kind of hard to believe. Still in week 1. Those are week 1 games. Still in week 1. Virginia Tech and South Carolina will play in Atlanta. Virginia Tech is an interesting case because if you look at them on paper, last year you go, okay, 6-7, not great. And I would agree, Virginia Tech was not great last year, and 6-7 is representative of that in a very mediocre ACC. But you realize every one of their 6 wins was by double digits. All of them. Every win was by double digits. Here are their losses. Overtime to Vanderbilt. Didn't look as bad 3 months later, but overtime to Vanderbilt. Lost by 3 to Rutgers. You shouldn't lose to Rutgers anyway. Lost by 3. Overtime against Syracuse. Had a pretty good quarterback, McCoy, losing overtime. Lost by 3 to Duke. Shouldn't lose to Duke, but it's 3. And then lost by 10 to Clemson. Like, they were in all their losses and blew out all their wins. So, I don't think Brent Key's a great coach. I think that program has fallen off a cliff since Frank Beamer had it going for 20 years. But I also am not ready to tell South Carolina, hey, y'all are way better than Virginia Tech. You'll just roll out of bed and beat them. I'm not ready to say that. I think that's a fascinating game. It wouldn't surprise me at all if that was a one-score game in the fourth quarter. And then still in week 1, you've got Tennessee and Syracuse. Now, Syracuse could be in a little bit of a rebuild, but I think Tennessee is in a little bit of a rebuild. I don't like Tennessee on paper. I talked about this in Atlanta on 2 different occasions. You lose the bulk of that offensive line that paved the way for the SEC Offensive Player of the Year. You only have Lance Hurd back, and he didn't have a great year. So your running game is completely rehauled. And oh, by the way, you lose Squirrel White. He's gone. You lose Brew McCoy. He's gone. And then Nico held you hostage and left. So the offense is just completely new. And what I thought at one point was a Josh Heupel offense that was just going to create great play all the time. Once we watched Hendon Hooker, I realize now, Hendon Hooker was awesome. Joe Milton, not awesome. Nico Imalavic, not awesome. Joey Aguilar, probably not awesome. I got real concerns about Tennessee scoring. Their defense is going to be good. They were awesome last year. You returned basically the whole secondary, and that includes Jermod McCoy, who's probably the best cover guy in the league. And then you've got a couple guys back on the defensive front that should help. I think they'll be good on defense. I'm worried about the offense. And I think they'll beat Syracuse in Atlanta, but it's not a given at this point. So that's like an impressive week 1 slate for the SEC outside of LSU and Clemson, which I'm not here to talk about right now. The other team I want to talk about is Notre Dame briefly because they have an impact on the SEC twofold. A&M goes to South Bend, and Notre Dame comes to Fayetteville into the South. And I think Notre Dame is going to be pretty good again. I realize that you lose your quarterback, but I watched Notre Dame play last year, and I watched the offense that they run, and I'm like, I don't know how they ever score aside from handing the ball to Jeremiah Love, who is probably the best running back in the country. But I don't feel like they're having to change the guard at quarterback is a big deal because I don't think last year's quarterback played very well. So I think Notre Dame's going to be good because I think Marcus Freeman's always going to field a good defense. It may not be quite as good as it was last year, but it's going to be good. The question is their defense ready for Texas A&M to go to South Bend and hand the ball off to two really talented running backs 43 times? Because I think that's what's coming. I think A&M is going to try to run the ball 50 times in South Bend between Marcel Reed keepers, Le'Veon Moss, and the two guys they've got behind him. I think A&M is going to run the ball a ton in that game. And that gives them a chance to win because I think Mike Elko's defense is going to be pretty good as well. I don't think Arkansas has got the muscle to stand up to Notre Dame, but I'll be watching. That's one of those games that Sam Pittman needs to do what he did last year against Tennessee to save his job again. Because really, if you look at last year, he only saved his job because of the Tennessee game. If they don't win that game, which they were trailing late, if they don't win that game, he probably isn't coaching there anymore because there would be no positives to lean on from last year other than routing Mississippi State. And that's just not something that's going to save your job. So is that one game where Arkansas at home can rise up? I doubt it, but Taylor Green is dangerous in that way. So I think that this rule that the SEC has put in that has required all their schools to play this Power 5 non-conference game has created interesting matchups. Y'all know my feeling on LSU going to Clemson. I don't like it. But when it's not my team and I can just sit back and watch, I think it's fascinating. Taylor, you're kind of listening to me go off on this tangent here, but like outside of Texas, Ohio State, which is obviously great, is there one of those games that I'm talking about that you're like, oh, that's interesting?
Yeah, Notre Dame, Miami, for all the reasons you just mentioned. I mean, you look at some of these polls, Notre Dame's a top 5 team in the country, according to these polls. I disagree with that adamantly. I do not think they're a top 5 team in the country, but like you said, that opens up things because how good is Notre Dame going to do with the whole, Texas Tech or Texas A&M thing as well. And then, they have Miami as well. Those are 2 tough out-of-conference games. Like, Notre Dame's going to have a lot going on early in the season. They're going to be tested right out of the gate.
There's some more good ones. Like, Michigan's got to go to Oklahoma. That's
so week
interesting.
2, like that's my favorite game, week 2.
Florida goes to Miami, which is interesting. I think that's a game last year that looked like it was going to be Billy Napier's death knell. I mean, that was the opener last year. Cam Ward went in there, threw for $1 billion. Graham Mertz turned the ball over, and you're looking at a Florida team that got run out of the swamp by Miami. Now it's a whole new Miami team, but they've bought a bunch of new talent. They brought in Carson back to throw it around a little bit. That's in Miami this time, and it's in week 4, not week 1. That's interesting, too. It'll be after Florida comes to Tiger Stadium. So just some games to keep an eye on in the Southeastern Conference as we get into September that I find to be really, really fascinating. The ones we talked about there, all of them in week number 1. All right, we'll step aside. The Saints have made some roster moves as they're currently on the practice field with the Rams. We'll talk about those next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. Hurricane Aaron brewing out there in the Atlantic. Not going to be affecting us here in South Louisiana, but you always know the next one could be around the corner. Do you know that your property policy is going to respond properly? Has your broker assured you of that? Have y'all gone through the policy? Do you know what it says or you just know what it costs? If you're a business owner and you just know what it costs, you're not alone in that at all. But if you want another set of eyeballs on that property policy to make sure you're one with the right carrier at the right price with the right coverage, that's what the Highland Insurance Group can do for you. Jonathan Carver and his team in Baton Rouge, they make their brand off of being experts in placing your coverage so that when something happens, hurricane, car accident, cyber attack, lawsuit, workers' comp incident, whatever it is, you are covered properly. They know that you spend a significant amount of money from your bottom line on insurance. Don't you want it to respond properly? That's really the question. And if your answer is yes, and I'm not sure that it does, call the Highland Insurance Group. You can find them online. They can send your contact information right there. It's highlandig.com. They can help you anywhere in the state of Louisiana. They're based right here in Baton Rouge. It's the Highland Insurance Group, highlandig.com.
Man, age is just a number. Don't let it dictate how you feel. Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness has anti-aging services that can help you look and feel your best. Visit yourgoodwood.com and discover a renewed sense of vitality.
Businesses like yours are the soul of our community. You deserve someone who'll deliver the internet services you deserve. That's why local businesses rely on Rev Business, 90 years of building connections. Visit us at letsrev.biz.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Atmos Energy, our smart choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
It's not just a game, it's a religion. You've got your team color, team swag, and now your very own website, LouisianaSports.net. Everything LSU, Saints, and Pelicans. Sports on demand. In-depth coverage by sports writing pros with continuously updated news. And with the LouisianaSports.net newsletter, you get pinged directly with top trending stories. Best of all, now and always, no paywall. It's free. LouisianaSports.net, powered by 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Your home for Louisiana sports.
We typically think of stress as being bad for us. At Our Lady of the Lake and LSU, we are researching how certain types of stress, such as exercise, can be good for our immune health. By studying people under extreme stress, such as athletes, astronauts, service members, and first responders, we're learning how to improve the immune health of everyone. That's the power of research. That's the impact of champions. Together, we roar.
At Luba Workers Comp, our journey began over 30 years ago with a simple belief. Our clients come first.
At Luba, our business has always been focused on people, not policies.
Through every success and challenge, we've continued to grow because we've stayed true to our values, committed to providing you with genuine dependability.
Because your well-being is more than a priority.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Back here on this Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Saints have made a roster move today. This has become kind of commonplace over the last couple of weeks. They have waived quarterback. Reading up now. They've waived Hunter Deckers, which they've done a couple of times, and they signed Jeremiah Martin, who is a 6'4", 265-pound defensive end. Jeremiah Martin is a bit of a journeyman in the NFL to this point. He's bounced around a little bit after playing his college football at Washington and Texas A&M. He spent time at a couple of different stops in the NFL without really playing any in games. but he's been in the league for a couple of years. He's played, obviously, in the UFL as well. The Saints worked out 3 different defensive ends, Amari Barno, Jeremiah Martin, who they signed, and then O'Shane Ziminis. And I think all of this is a little bit of foreshadowing for one specific player on the Saint roster, and that is Isaiah Foskey. The Saints have made the decision to, as I mentioned, sign Jeremiah Martin. That doesn't mean they're going to part ways immediately with Isaiah Foskey, but you just have to read the writing on the wall. Foskey is no longer a super young player. They have gotten 2 different coaching staffs have gotten a look at him. And Foskey played 44 defensive snaps in the preseason opener. If you look at the ESPN box score, he is credited with nothing in 44 snaps. Nothing in 44 snaps. If you look at Pro Football Focus, they credit him with 1 missed tackle and 1 assisted tackle in 44 snaps. If you look at his defensive grade per Pro Football Focus against the Chargers, and you realize when you play 44 snaps, how few of those are against first-team offensive line players. You're going against backups and guys that are going to get cut. He graded a 40 overall in that game on Sunday afternoon. 40. Whether you think Pro Football Focus is an incredible tool or a waste of time, 40 is a loud grade. And here is something that makes it louder. There were 29 Saints defenders that graded better than Isaiah Foskey on Sunday. 29 guys that had a better grade. You may think that he should have graded a 20 or that he should have graded a 60. But either way, when you consider him relative to his peers, when you consider the stat sheet, when you consider the opposition, when you consider the 3rd year in the league, this is pretty clear at this point. This is not a guy that can help you at all. And if they were truly just bringing in 3 edge rushers to sign and then immediately cut Foskey, well, that's what they would have done, and that's not what they're doing. And I'm not suggesting they've signed Jeremiah Martin, who's a game changer defensively. He's a guy that is played in lesser leagues in the NFL more than he's played in the NFL. But I think it's obvious that the Saints were giving Foskey an opportunity, and I think it's obvious that they're exploring other options. They don't need Isaiah Foskey's position to be a huge impact on this team as it's currently constituted. You've got Chase Young, you've got Carl Granderson, you've got Cam Jordan. That's 3 guys you know you can trust as long as they're healthy to play the run, to rush the passer, to be solid players. So it's not like this is a starting player on your team. But you understand that Father Time is working on Cam Jordan, right? He's not going to be here forever. And the thought was that Isaiah Foskey was kind of the next man up, and that this year he would ascend to a more prominent role, and it's not happening. And I don't think it's going to happen. This is not a hot take. This is not breaking news. This is not anything other than a very, very obvious observation that Isaiah Foskey's time in New Orleans is coming to an end. And it's less about that specific pick and that specific player. It's more about the understanding that the organization cannot do this moving forward. The draft is a crapshoot. Some organizations are better at it than others. But it's a crapshoot. It's an inexact science that cannot be mastered or perfected. Every organization has great 6th-round picks and crappy 1st-round picks. All of them. But the Saints are in a position as an organization that they cannot afford to have any more Isaiah Foskeys in the next couple of years. They cannot afford to have any more Peyton Turners moving forward. They cannot afford to have high-end draft picks at premium positions that simply cannot help. You don't have to make the All-Pro team. You don't have to make the All-Pro team. You don't have to be a Pro Bowler. You've got to help. And it is very clear that Isaiah Foskey cannot help. And this is not just me talking. This is not just me reading a stat sheet. When Isaiah Foskey got to training camp, we were talking to Sharif Ishak. We were talking to Luke Johnson. We were talking to people that are there every single day, and they're going, he's got a long way to go. And that's not a a death sentence to your professional football career that in your first time in camp, things don't go well. This is a guy who was playing during the COVID year. That's a tough thing to do in college. It's a tough thing to do in development when everybody's sticking Q-tips up their nose as opposed to practicing accurately. You're not in meeting rooms. Like all these guys that were in their development phase, whether it was recruiting into college or playing in college or getting ready to start your NFL career, all these things, like that was a weird time for well over a year. But now there's not really an excuse that can be made. This is just a whiff by the Saints. And they're looking to restock the shelves at that position. They're looking to make sure they've got depth there. And it would be very, very, very surprising to me if on the last cut down day of camp, Isaiah Foskey made the roster or the practice squad. I just think there's too much evidence to support this. And the Saints have to make sure, moving forward, that the guys they draft, especially that high, in the first, second, third round, you're going to miss on 6th and 7th rounders. Those guys don't make teams very often. If you find a diamond in the rough, you find Marcus Colston, fan-freaking-tastic. You find Jari Evans, incredible. Middle rounds, late rounds, all that's great. But it generally doesn't work that way. But when you have first and second round picks and your franchise is in salary cap hell and your roster's as bad as anybody in the league, you cannot draft guys that cannot help. At least find yourself a depth piece. And they haven't done it with Foskey. Hopefully this draft class is different. You feel good about what some of those guys have put on tape early. You feel good about what you've got at left tackle. Kelvin Banks has done a good job. You feel good about what you've got with Kool-Aid McKinstry, who you took last year. You feel good right now about Tallahassee Fuaga. There are positive returns on Quincy Riley from this team. Hopefully Kendre Miller finds his stride here. Brzee has shown some flashes of real pass rusher from the interior. There are some things you've done well here, but you've got to avoid the Isaiah Foskeys and the Peyton Turners moving forward. This is a sunk cost. This is a guy that's going to be moved on from. And that's a big bummer, just 2 full seasons into his career. But when you look at who the Saints are working out, what they're bringing in, what Foskey did in the preseason, what he's done for 2 years, what Pro Football Focus says, what the people that cover the Saints say, what the statistics say, what the front office is telling you with their actions, this is coming to an end. And that's a bummer, but it's caution. You can't have that happen again. And that's not an indictment on Kellen Moore and his staff, but certainly on Ireland, Loomis, that crew. This is a whiff, and those set you back significantly. And if you continue to do this, you're going to have a hard time digging out of this hole at the bottom of the sport. Just is what it is. Saints are on the practice field right now with the Rams. We'll get a report from Luke Johnson hopefully tomorrow, depending on his travel schedule. Ross Jackson's out there as well. You can find his work at LouisianaSports.net. He helped report this news a little bit earlier with that news that they're bringing in some help at end, and he'll be coming back tomorrow as the Saints get ready for Jacksonville on Sunday. We'll certainly preview that game coming up tomorrow, as it looks like Tyler Shough may get his opportunity to start that game. They haven't announced that yet, but he's gotten a lot of first-team reps over the last 2 days. If you read the practice reports on LouisianaSports.net and hear what some of the folks are saying out there in Southern California. So, Isaiah Foskey, I think his time is just about done. We'll move on from the Saints here. Our Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms. Tell you more about them as we move forward. 30 minutes left to go here on this Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
These ice cubes could have been a thankless bed for an all-you-can-eat salad bar. But instead, they cradle and cool the crisp, refreshing Dos Equis. Nicely done, ice cubes.
When it comes to industrial construction, River Parish Contractors can do it all. Mechanical, structural, custom fabrication, specialized welding, and turnaround services. Strategically located in between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, we have the local team with the experience and commitment to safety to manage the most complex industrial projects. Period. Here's the deal. Partnering with us means your project is delivered on time, on budget, and most important, safely. River Parish Contractors, let's get building.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
Man, age is just a number. Don't let it dictate how you feel. Goodwood Bend Sexual Wellness has anti-aging services that can help you look and feel your best. Visit yourgoodwood.com and discover a renewed sense of vitality.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Today, we are shaping tomorrow.
We are researching how extreme stress impacts the immune system, from trauma victims to athletes and even astronauts.
Our work is leading the way in sepsis treatment, saving countless lives.
We're unlocking the mind with music in exciting new ways.
Our Lady of the Lake Health and LSU are improving the health of our state.
That's the impact of champions.
Imagine the impact we'll have on the future. Together, we roar.
Hi, this is Beth Serena. Welcome to my pool. The first time I saw this beautiful pool, it exceeded every expectation that I had. They were able to get everything we wanted in this pool. It is a beautiful pool. We live out here, we eat out here, we watch TV out here. This is like our living room outside. We love this pool and everything about it. When we decided to build our pool, we called a great friend who is one of the best pool builders in the country in North Louisiana, and we said, who would you choose to build a pool in Baton Rouge? And without a hesitation, he told us Russell Pools. He said their history, tradition of great builds, great pools was unmatched. So of course, who did we call? Russell Pools. The advice I would give to anyone looking to build a pool is first call Russell Pools. They'll do an incredible job. It'll be incredibly organized. It'll be time efficient, and you will have your pool in no time.
We came up with the idea of auctions in August. Gulf Coast Bank does all the work. We display the item. We prominently feature it in social media. On
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. I tell you Sean's story all the time. This was labor of love for him. He just had too many questions about beef industry, wasn't satisfied with the quality he was purchasing weekly, and said, hey, I'm going to do something about this. And he had some land, had farms, started dealing with the technology that was raising cattle, and the results he's gotten over the years have been so amazing that he's decided to share that with the Baton Rouge community, and now it's turned into a business. And it's a process that they've refined that is a 3-year journey for all their cattle. And they mate genetically superior animals, raise them on grass, they finish them on grain. They're dry aged 35 to 45 days, and this is not a guessing game with them. It's remarkable consistency. I've talked to you about intramuscular fat scores with beef. If you go to a restaurant and they've got select beef, that's 0 to 3 on the IMF chart. If it's 4 to 8, you're talking about choice, which you hear all the time, choice Angus beef. Prime is what you get at the fine dining restaurants, the best of the best. And that starts at 8 or 9 on the scale, right? Sean had a vet come out and do ultrasounds on his animals. 9 is prime, right? Here's some of the scores they got on the farm right now. 20.14, 19.92, 17.75, 17.03, 17.89, 15.89, 15.43. It's not just like one animal they got that's no. This is a consistent process that yields these kind of results time and time and time again. If you would like your freezer to be full of prime Angus beef for your ground beef that you use for your burgers, whatever the case may be, for your ribeyes, fillets, you're going to be watching the Tigers, watching the Saints, putting a steak on the grill. You want it to be prime. You want it to be fantastic. Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef can do that for you. All you got to do is call Sean. Say, Sean, I heard about this on Hunt Show. I'd like to talk to you about it. Go up to the farm. you can actually see what you're buying. And when you bring that beef home, you can know it's got one DNA. Sometimes you purchase 2 pounds of ground beef, wherever it is that you purchase your beef, there could be hundreds, thousands of DNAs in that mass-produced ground beef, not from Sagrera Farms. So call Sean. It's 225, obviously, right here in Baton Rouge, 719-1723. 719-1723. For the finest in Angus beef, Sagrera Farms. They bring you our Thursday shows each and every week. I saw something on the internet yesterday that piqued my interest. Because as well as I think the DBs have played in LSU's camp, and that has been a far, far cry from the last 2 years, trust me. I haven't seen a lot of interceptions being made. Every once in a while, like Harold Perkins got one on Nussmeier in a 7-on-7 period, kind of baited into it over the middle. But I haven't seen a lot of interceptions. Saw one on LSU's Twitter handle yesterday, not when we were in person, from DJ Pickett. And his role on this team fascinates me because I think it unlocks a lot of different things if it works out. You look at a lot of different guys on this roster, I can tell you what their role is going to be. I know what Weeks' role is going to be. I know what Harold Perkins' role is going to be. I know what Jack Pyburn's going to be asked to do or Caden Durham's going to be asked to do. I know Chris Hilton's role on this team. I'm getting to a point where I know what A.J. Halsey's role on this team is going to be. I know what they're going to use Jacoby and Guillory for. There are so many guys that I feel very comfortable in their roles. Pickett, I don't. I don't know what to make of him because he rarely runs with the ones. That's almost always Ashton Stamps and Mansour Delane. I don't know if he could potentially be in there in nickel packages or if they're just going to leave Perkins out there or if it means something different like, they bring a safety down like Cooley and put Spears or Jordan Gilbert back there. I don't know if Jordan Gilbert moves in. I'm not certain the nickel and dime looks because we see them at practice, but we see rotations in them. And my kind of thought in the summer when I was thinking about what the LSU secondary could look like before I ever watched them in practice in action, I was like, Pickett seems like he could maybe play on the outside, and that might kick Delane or Stamps down inside where you've got a guy that can cover that's down there, and that Delane's not afraid to tackle and Stamps isn't either. I don't know if I want Pickett playing in there. I don't know if he's ready to tackle. He's just skinny. He's not, in terms of his weight, he's like 190, 195 pounds, which is not skinny until you see he's 6'5", and you're like, oh, that he is skinny. And so if he can come on and change the rotation of that defense, it could be a big, big deal. And I didn't get a good feel for what Pickett was early in camp for one very obvious reason. He was working against Chris Hilton in every rep, all of them. Well, nobody's going to look very good working against Chris Hilton every rep. Nobody on that field wants to run with him. And, oh, by the way, he's 4 years older than DJ Pickett. So I didn't get a great sense for that. But since that time where those one-on-ones have been fewer and far between and he's kind of mashed up with some other guys, he's been really physical, and he's made some plays. We went out there on Monday to practice, and I told you this after practice, but they threw at him in the red zone 3 or 4 different times, and none of them were completed. Now, I would contend that probably 2 of them were pass interference, but he was there, and he's being physical. He's not scared of contact. He's not shying away from the contact, and he's in position to make a play on the man and the ball. Is he a little bit too physical at times? Maybe, but I'll take that. That's the first step to being in position in a good corner. But you figure that DJ Pickett is in the same conversation as some of the best cornerback recruits that LSU has ever signed. That's Patrick Peterson. That's Derek Stingley. That's Eli Ricks. That's Kevin Tolliver. That's Christian Fulton. That's all these guys. And they had varying degrees of success at LSU, but they were a top 2 or 3 cornerback in the country, which is what Pickett is. I just didn't know as of August 1st, is this guy ready to go out there and physically mix it up? And I know he will against Louisiana Tech in week 2, and I know he will against Southeastern in week 4. And I know that over time, guys grow up. But, Eli Ricks had a pick 6 in his first game. No, never mind. That was his first year against Florida. He had a big play against Mississippi State in that first game, not a pick 6. But he was ready to go. Stingley was ready to go. Patrick Peterson was ready to go. Morris Claiborne was just about ready to go. Tre'Davious White started about 4 games into his first year. And those are the guys we're talking about with Pickett. And I see him make a play on the ball in that Twitter video, and I'm like, all right, they're starting to see some things. And you've got 2 very veteran, solidified corners in Stamps and Delane on the outside. But I'm just curious how much better LSU's defense can be if Pickett comes onto the field. Whether that moves Delane or Stamps down, or Pickett goes down, or Perkins moves up to the line of scrimmage and Pickett plays there. Like, I'm not sure. That's beyond my level of expertise in understanding with this team to this point, but I'm excited for it because I'm looking at this team as a potential championship caliber team. I'm looking at this team that can compete for the SEC championship, compete to get into the playoff, and compete to make a run in that playoff. And for that to happen, you've got to have some guys develop and hit their ceilings. And the ceiling for Pickett is astronomical. And if he can come in and show out and make plays on the ball and not be pushed around and not be overwhelmed by the speed and be ready to go, it makes LSU a lot better. And I think the staff knew this. I think they knew this. And that's why Corey Raymond had him line up across from Chris Hilton for 2 weeks straight. Because that is baptism by fire. That is figuring things out really quickly. Sink or swim, kid. And it feels like he's swimming right now because he's getting better. He's making more plays on the ball. And that's an exciting, exciting thing. DBU needs badly to resurrect because it has been gone for a few years. Pickett is such a big piece of that if it can work out. And right now, kind of feels like you're trending in the right direction with him, especially with the play he made yesterday on the football for an interception. So we'll see him again tomorrow. We'll see all the LSU team tomorrow. Certainly have a practice report up on LouisianaSports.net, and we'll be talking about it on tomorrow's show, first with Preston and then my practice report to follow. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to the weekend. We're getting closer to it. We'll take a step aside, take one more time out, and then come back and close out this Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com. When you go to Genesis of Baton Rouge, you're going to feel like a guest, not a customer. A lot of folks have had bad experiences at car dealerships. You show up, the salesperson is pushy, trying to upsell you. You feel like you're taken advantage of, maybe lied to. It's just not a good experience. And that stereotype exists for a reason. That's never going to happen at Genesis of Baton Rouge. First of all, it's a smaller dealership, a smaller fleet, smaller lot. There aren't as many salespeople to swarm you. But the ones that help you are going to be just that, helpful. They're going to treat you like that guest. They're going to answer your questions. They'll get you behind the wheel. And if you decide, hey, I don't have time to go to the lot, that's okay. Check out the inventory online. If you see something you like, GV80, midsize SUV, you want to get behind the wheel, one of those salespeople will come to you. They'll drive to your office. They'll drive to your house, anywhere in the Baton Rouge area, and show you the features of that Genesis vehicle. And then you'll get industry-leading warranty and a phenomenal group of people to work with as a Genesis owner. It's a luxury brand at a reasonable price. You can find the entire inventory online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
Flight by Yingling is raising the bar by crafting the next generation of light beer. With only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories, this is premium refreshment 6 generations in the making. Flight by Yingling. Raise the bar.
Parish Construction and Roofing.
This is Coach Kim Mulkey. Go to parishbuilt.com for all of your roofing needs.
From your hometown, parishbuilt.com.
You gotta believe in a dream. Believe. You gotta believe in a dream. Believe. You gotta believe. My whole team on wild.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary. For those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
These are the luckiest ice cubes in the world. They could have been a thankless bed for an all-you-can-eat salad bar. But instead, they've been called upon to cradle and cool a crisp, refreshing Dos Equis. Huh. Looks like the lucky just got luckier. Dos Equis.
ED, low T, or simply seeking to optimize your health and performance? Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness offers a range of discreet services to address your specific needs. We empower men to reclaim their health and confidence. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
I'm super excited to get out to LeBears tonight. Every year, or the last 4 years, I've been fortunate to MC the Q&A portion of Baton Rouge LSU Alumni Association, Baton Rouge chapter's annual kickoff to the school year. Get a chance to talk to a number of LSU coaches. I see a lot of great people. It's been inside Tiger Stadium the last few years, but it'll be at LeBears tonight. I have a chance to talk to Matt McMahon. I have a chance to talk to Kyle Williams from LSU football, obviously, and very much looking forward to that. It's one of those, like, you check these boxes as you get closer and closer to football season, and like kind of starts with SEC Media Days, and you check that box, and then you come back and you see, okay, you get fall camp reporting, okay, maybe like Hard Knocks launches, you get the first NFL preseason game, and this is one for me that kind of gets the blood flowing a little bit. Let's get ready to go for another great year at LSU. And I'm going to talk a little bit before I talk to the coaches about just what a heater LSU is on. It's phenomenal. The last 6 years here in Baton Rouge, between Heisman trophies and national championships and all-star game starts and number one draft picks and everything that LSU has accomplished on the field and off the field in athletics over the last 6 years has been great, and this is a night where we can celebrate that. So I'm really looking forward to getting out there tonight. If you're going to be out there tonight as part of the Baton Rouge Alumni Association chapter, then looking forward to seeing you, and we'll get have some good times out there at LeBears this evening. I'll kind of give a report on it tomorrow. We should have a lot to do on tomorrow's show. We'll have Preston Guy. Hopefully, we can have Luke Johnson talking Saints. We'll certainly preview Saints in Jacksonville. We get to watch LSU practice tomorrow. I think Brian Kelly speaks as well. So a lot of content coming up tomorrow. And then when we get to next week, like, it is week 0. That doesn't just absolutely send me over the moon. A lot of these week 0 games. I think we got Farmageddon coming up in week 0 next week. But you're knocking on the door of getting there. I think for a lot of people in that checklist I was just rattling off, sending the kids to school for the first time is on that checklist. That happened for a lot of folks over the last week. Unfortunately, it was supposed to be a big day in the Palmer house, where we're going to have Meyer's first ever organized sports practice. The Shark Dogs elite pre-K3 soccer team. We're going to hit the practice field today. Turns out there's a heat advisory apparently, so the 3-year-olds can't run around with a soccer ball for 40 minutes. So he's going to be super bummed. However, I do have sources inside the Palmer house that indicate a new soccer ball has been purchased today. Could be a big afternoon in the Palmer house if my sources are correct. And I think they are, based on the picture I received in the credit card statement. So it sounds like a soccer ball was purchased. So no practice for the Shark Dogs today, but could be a big weekend of soccer in the Palmer house. So Let's rock and roll with some Take It or Leave It.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Presented to you by Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer, crafted by America's oldest brewery. Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer. If it's a heat advisory out here, that means you need something cold to drink, right? Flight by Yingling, built for these Baton Rouge and South Louisiana summers, whether you're on the grill, at the lake, at the pool, on the golf course, tailgating. You want a light beer, 95 calories, 2.6 carbs. Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer. Check it out wherever you purchase your weekend beers. All right, Taylor?
So recently, Derek Nix, the Auburn offensive coordinator, explained that he is going to be calling first down plays, and it sounds like head coach Hugh Freeze will be the second down play caller, and then Kent Austin is their third down play caller. So first, second, and third down, all different coaches calling those plays. Hugh Freeze will be fired next season. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it. I think they're going to be a little bit better this year.
Leave it alone.
I think this is weird to say, but it's probably true. I think Saban leaving and Kalen DeBoer kind of falling flat last year helps Hugh's case. If DeBoer loses 2 or 3 more this year and doesn't make any noise in the playoff, I think that the pressure eases at Auburn. That was such a pressure cooker with Kirby and Nick just doing absurd things, and then Auburn having to play those two in November every year and kind of comparing themselves to them. I think Hugh Freeze is a good coach. I think he's a little bit squirrely to talk to on the microphone, but I think he'll win a little bit more games. They've got more talent this year. I don't know if Jackson Arnold's the dude. He's probably better than Peyton Thorne, but I don't think he's going to get fired imminently. I think it's ridiculous to have 3 different coaches calling 3 different downs. I've often told this story. Have you heard my story about the 3rd and 17 in Austin?
No. I would love to.
I was privy to some information on that. Steve Ensminger was the offensive coordinator, and obviously they bring in Joe Brady to be the spread offense guy, and he was in charge of third down concepts. Well, here's what happened. You get to 3rd and 17, and LSU, Ed Ogeron's on the headset, and he goes, okay, it's 3rd and 17, it's the 4th quarter, but we want to try to get a first down, which that's one decision you have to make on 3rd and 17. Sometimes you punt and run the draw. Well, I guess I shouldn't say punt because you don't do that literally. That was a euphemism. Sometimes you run the draw and then literally punt. Sometimes you try to get 17 yards. Ogeron says, let's get 17 yards. Okay, so Brady's in charge at that point of coming up with the play design. He comes up with the play design. This is what they want to run. Ensminger, who's calling the play to Burrow in the huddle, says, okay, I know what this defensive coordinator is going to do. He's going to blitz. This play concept calls for Clyde to leak out of the backfield. I need Clyde in. So he called the play that Brady called, but he told Burrow, keep Clyde in. So when Burrow calls the play and says, Clyde, you stay in, whatever the terminology that was that for. And if you go back and watch 3rd and 17, they blitz, Clyde stonewalls it, Burrow steps up and hits Jefferson. So you can have multiple cooks in the kitchen. You can have Ogeron say, we're trying to get this. Brady say, here's the play. Ensminger says, and we need to do this. But we can't have 3 guys calling different plays 3 in a row. Like that we've overstepped our bounds at that point.
Apparently, according to this article from AL.com, this is not much different than what they did a year ago, though. So the only difference is Derek Nix did not call first downs last year. He's calling first downs this year. Yeah, it didn't work out well.
And apparently, as it stands, is what the report says, that no matter what happens, Hugh Freeze can get on the headset and say, no, we're doing this, which makes sense. I always thought that great offensive coaches need to be calling plays, but I understand the feeling that they've got to babysit now and make sure kids don't go in the transfer portal. So getting ready to game plan and call plays is maybe a little bit more than needs to be on their plate. I get that.
All right, I got one more for you.
Yes.
So due to injury, Shedeur Sanders had to start over the weekend because Cleveland basically had no quarterbacks left. Well, yesterday he suffered an oblique injury, and he's not going to play this weekend. The Cleveland Browns will never get their quarterback situation figured out. Take it or leave it.
Leave it.
Leave it alone.
Joe Flacco, baby. He's the guy. He's healthy.
The only one that's healthy is the 41-year-old.
He's healthy. Give him the rock. Let him spin it. Super Bowl champ. Browns. I heard Hester talking about this earlier today. They are going to need to get that old Browns jersey with all the quarterbacks out. They got to get that thing back out because they're going to hit They're going to hit at least 2 this year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think they're going to add 2 names to that this year.
I think it's out of room.
No, we got to make room. It's a famous piece of sports memorabilia. The Browns aren't going to win the Super Bowl anytime soon. They got to have the jersey. That's like the most redeeming quality of the whole organization is they've got this ridiculous jersey with 5,000 quarterbacks on it, and none of them are any good. So add it to Tim Couch's name and put the 2 more on there. Joe Flacco. All right. That's it for our Thursday edition, brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. If you missed any of the show, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. You can search Hunt Palmer Show for your Saints content, Hunt on Saints for your LSU content, Hunt on LSU, of course, LouisianaSports.net as well. Big show coming up tomorrow. Very excited for it. If you're coming out to the Bears tonight, look forward to seeing you. Matt's going to drive you home next on After Further Review. We're back tomorrow, same time, same place for a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show right here on the Capital City's leader for Sports Talk, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Hunt Palmer Show.